Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 110 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
We don't have a whole lot to talk about as far as what we've been up to.
We have been up to absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we needed some downtime, I guess.
No, it's just we've been busy with work things and all of that. So, you know, no travels or anything like that.
No travels or anything. We will be next week, Saturday, October 28th, we'll be at the vegan pop-up market, the Halloween market at the Vegan Center in Tonawanda, New York.
Yes, and in addition to it being a Halloween market, it is also the 3rd anniversary of the Vegan Center in Tonawanda.
Yeah, that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, and the day after that, Sunday the 29th, we're hoping to make it to the mac and cheese cook-off that's happening also at the Vegan Center. There are multiple chefs, home chefs, business chefs presenting their mac and cheese to be judged by all the people attending. So we're hoping to make it to that because that sounds like a good time. And who doesn't love some vegan mac and cheese?
I know. I love vegan mac and cheese. So I guess that would not be an answer to your question because you're asking who doesn't love vegan mac and cheese. So the answer to that would be not me.
Yeah. Then after that, November 18th and 19th, we're leaving on a jet plane and heading to London for the VegFest UK at the London Olympia National.
Yes, we are. Counting down the days. Cannot wait.
Yep. Can't wait to get there so we can go London, baby.
London, baby. Yes. 2 whole days of VegFest UK.
Yeah, that should be a good time. And we should have a lot of really cool stuff to report back on, not only from VegFest UK, but from restaurants that we find and places that we go.
Oh, yes. I'm sure we'll be doing a lot of investigating while we're there.
If you can't make it to the Halloween pop-up market and would like to get your hands on some of Sam's beautiful hand-knit scarves and hats and whatnots, and some of her beautiful jewelry, all of it's vegan and handmade, you can get that stuff at her Etsy site, which is Cucumber Craftworks, and we always have a link to her Etsy store in the show notes if you'd like to check that out.
That we do.
What else is going on? Oh, Hoodies for Homeless 716 is once again accepting donations of gently used hoodies and warm clothing, and donations can be dropped off at Wellness in the Village in Alden, New York. They're at 13219 Broadway, Alden. And also at the State Farm Insurance Office in East Aurora, and that's at 209 Main Street, East Aurora, New York.
Yeah, so if you have some gently used hoodies or other warm clothing that could use a new home, please consider donating to Hoodies for the Homeless 716.
Halloween is coming.
This is true.
Yes, it's next week.
It is.
And we considered doing an episode, another episode on like Halloween candy and stuff like that, but there hasn't been a whole lot of new.
No, I don't really think there's a whole lot new in the vegan Halloween candy world.
No, there's not a whole lot of new. But if you'd like to know what candies you can purchase for Halloween, what vegan candies you can purchase, you can listen to our previous episode. It's episode 58. And we talk about all the vegan Halloween candy. We talk about costumes, and there's all kinds of fun stuff that we talk about in that episode if you want to hear some Halloween-related material.
Indeed.
Hey, we had a recipe this week.
Yes, we did, and it was a fantastic one, I have to say.
So let's talk about that. Here is this week's recipe from our vegan kitchen. This week, I made my vegan sausage and ricotta stuffed shells.
This was really, really awesome because I have to say, in general, I'm not a huge fan of stuffed shells.
I know you aren't. Before we were vegan, I used to make stuffed shells, and Sam would say she liked them, but I knew she really didn't.
And it's because they were too ricotta heavy.
Too much ricotta
for me.
I could eat ricotta right out of the package before we were vegan.
And I've just never been a fan of ricotta. It's partly, it doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to me, and I'm not crazy about the texture.
Yeah.
So there's just not a lot to recommend a stuffed shell to me, particularly if it's just stuffed with ricotta.
Right.
If there's not something else that's breaking up the ricotta.
Right.
It's just not something I'm really interested in.
Yeah. These were stuffed with vegan sausage. I used Beyond Italian spicy sausage. You take it out of the casings and break it up and cook it in a pan, like brown it in a pan, all broken up. And then I made a tofu ricotta with herbs and spinach and all that jazz and marinara sauce and baked that sucker up. It turned out pretty well.
It did. It was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And what I also appreciated, I have to say, is that you didn't use the like gigundo shells.
I used jumbo shells. Are there bigger shells than jumbo shells? I mean,
Oh yes, I've seen much bigger
like
stuffed
super
shells.
jumbo?
Maybe, I don't know what they're called, but you know, the shells that you had, like they were a nice, reasonable size. Like, you know, you cut a shell in half and you kind of get 2 bites out of it. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful. So the size was great. The fact that there was the sausage breaking up the ricotta.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like your ricotta had more flavor to it than most ricottas I've ever tasted.
Well, it's a tofu ricotta. I think, I think it just naturally will have more flavor because you're going to impart other things into it,
Sure.
you know?
Sure.
So,
But I'm just saying, as stuffed shells go, these were probably the best stuffed shells I've ever had.
wow. Well, that's quite the endorsement.
So there you go. And for someone who's not crazy about stuffed shells,
Yeah.
you know, that's saying something.
Yeah, like I said, that's a good endorsement.
Yeah.
Hey, if you want to get your hands on the full written recipe for my vegan sausage and ricotta stuffed shells, the full written recipe will be up on our Patreon page for all of our patrons. So if you're not a patron and you'd like to get your hands on that recipe, then join our Patreon community and you can get that and all the other recipes that have come out of our kitchen. So,
And there have been quite a few of them.
there's a number of them up there for sure.
Time for our noteworthy section. Today, unfortunately, we are saying rest in peace to Esther the Wonder Pig. The girl who started it all for partners Steve Jenkins and Derek Walter, Esther the Pig, has died. The two adopted Esther and were told she was a micro pig, but Esther quickly grew to a whopping 600 pounds. Esther became the inspiration for Steve and Derek to start an animal sanctuary and was a beloved resident at the Happily Ever Esther Sanctuary. The public loved Esther, and that love helped the farm raise funds not only for the residents, but to purchase much-needed large animal diagnostic equipment for their local veterinary clinic.
Yeah, and something that we've learned is that there really is no such thing as a micro pig.
Or a teacup pig.
Yeah, that often people purchase these animals thinking they're going to stay small, and they don't.
No.
And they usually end up in shelters or looking for homes when these pigs start to get, you know, their normal average size of, say, 300 pounds or 400 pounds. I don't know. Esther was huge. She was really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
600 pounds. That's a big pig.
Yeah. She was quite large. Janelle from Mockingbird Farms posted something right after Esther passed, and I thought it said everything that we would have said and more. And so I thought I would read her beautiful tribute to Esther. She posted, "We are devastated to hear of darling Esther the Wonder Pig's passing. She was an absolute queen, a legend, a life changer, and a great source of happiness for so many millions of folks who followed her shenanigans for over a decade. Our hearts break for Steve Jenkins, Derek Walter, and the entire Happily Ever Esther Farm Sanctuary family and community. What a tremendous loss, but she is undoubtedly the most beloved pig to have ever existed. Esther always valued kindness and compassion, above all, promoting that every day with her dad's help. May you have met your sweetheart Corno in a field of wildflowers and eat all the cupcakes. The life of Esther the Wonder Pig is larger than life. You've done wonderful things, beautiful girl. The entire world will miss you." And I just thought that was a really touching tribute.
It is. It's lovely.
And yeah, and we couldn't have said it any better
No,
ourselves.
definitely not.
So thank you, Janelle of Mockingbird Farms, for posting that, because it really touched me. And that brings us to our main topic,
Which is even more vegan myths that need to die.
Yeah, we're going to be putting on our Scully and Mulder and Scully costumes.
Are we really?
Yeah, and we're going to find the truth because the truth is out there. I don't know who would be Scully and who would be Mulder.
I don't either. That's a tough call.
Yeah, so we're going to debunk even more vegan myths. There's so many of them out there, you know?
There's tons of them. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And they all need to be debunked eventually.
They
But,
do.
you know,
If you'd like to check out our first series of Vegan Mythbusters, check out episode 57, where we bust a myth. And every time I say that, all I can think of is bust a move.
yes, I know. I think you do it purposefully
I don't mean to. It's
so
just
that other people will also hear bust a move.
bust a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we go. What is our first myth that needs to die?
The first myth that needs to die is vegans only care about animal rights and don't care about human rights.
Oh, yeah, this one irks me.
Yeah, it does. While this is definitely an individual choice, most vegans are active in many human rights campaigns and have an understanding of the human injustices that are happening in our world. The difference is, while human rights violations are, for the most part, frowned upon, the violation of animal rights, save dog, cats, and other companion animals, is an accepted practice that takes place millions of times every day.
Indeed.
And so that's why I believe that vegans, you know, when speaking from a place of specifically vegan activism, are focusing on animal rights and animal liberation.
Right.
Yes.
Right, because it's an accepted thing that we violate the rights of animals every day.
Yes.
While it's not really an accepted thing to violate the rights of humans every day. However, the rights of humans are violated on a daily basis.
They certainly are.
And both animals and humans need people fighting for their rights.
Absolutely.
And I think vegans fight for those rights.
I agree. Most of the vegans that I've come across have been very aware, like not only of the vegan movement as a social justice movement, but of the interconnectedness of all social justice movements. Because most injustices, and actually I'm going to go so far as to say all injustices, come from a similar place. From one group feeling that they are superior to another in one way, shape, or form.
Right.
Whether that's men to women, white people to black people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or human to non-human. And so really, these injustices, though they manifest in very, very different ways, depending on the injustice in question, they all stem from something very, very similar. And so therefore, I actually think it makes it easier for vegans to be effective advocates for other social justice movements as well.
Yeah, and I think it's a cop-out for the people who say things like vegans only care about animals and they don't care about human rights. I really think that it's just a defense mechanism for people to say that.
Sure. I mean, because it doesn't have to be an either or.
Right.
We're not defending animal rights at the expense of human rights.
Right.
Absolutely not. Nor would we. But we don't want to defend human rights at the expense of animal rights either. We want those rights to be acknowledged on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
The next vegan myth that we feel needs to die is vegans only eat salads and vegetables. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. Most vegans eat a varied diet of vegetables, legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, and other proteins. And I think we've said it before that since we've been vegan, since becoming vegan, we've never eaten a more diverse diet.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. No, I mean, we love salads and we love vegetables. And I'm not speaking of we, the vegans. I'm just talking about Christine and I, because I couldn't possibly speak for all vegans. But, you know, we ourselves, the two of us, love salads and love vegetables. But there's a whole lot of other food that we love too, as I'm sure any of you who have been listening for even a few episodes will understand.
Yeah.
So Yeah, this is actually just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And I'm not exactly sure how this myth still exists, how you can still go to certain restaurants and have the only vegan option be some sort of a vegetable dish with no protein, no grain, but it still happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there must be some silly start to this somewhere where like someone got the idea, oh, well, wait a minute. If you can't eat meat and you can't eat fish and you can't eat dairy and you can't eat eggs and you can't eat honey, well, the only thing left is salad.
It's vegetables. Yeah.
It's vegetables.
Yeah.
Which simply isn't true.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, a lot of our diet is vegetables.
Sure.
And I know I'm happiest when the vast majority of our diet is vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we certainly eat other things. We consume a great deal of tofu. We do indulge in, packaged meat replacers every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Just today, in fact, Christine used a Beyond sausage to make her stuffed shells.
Yeah.
And she made a tofu ricotta. So it's not just a block of tofu, it's turning it into something else.
Right.
And I think that it's been a real learning experience for us the past 5 years, taking vegan staples and turning them into really amazing food.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. But I think that leads us perfectly into our next myth that needs to die.
Yeah. That vegans don't eat junk food. Yeah, we do.
Anybody that's been to a Veg Fest.
Oh my gosh, yes. Anyone who has ever been to a Veg Fest knows this to be untrue. There have never been more vegan junk foods available on the market. Whether you're talking about burgers, nuggets, cheeses, snack foods, they're everywhere. And there's an incredible plethora of vegan mac and cheese and mock meats that come in seemingly endless varieties. And honestly, I think the reason why there's been such a surge in vegan junk foods or vegan packaged or processed foods is that they're probably the most palatable to non-vegans.
Right. Yeah, I think...
I think a lot of them are trying to be a bridge. I don't think they're actually marketed to vegans. I think they're kind of a bridge, to vegetarians or veg curious omnivores, that kind of a thing. The ones who are saying, oh, well, I can understand why people might want to be vegan for the environment or for the animals, but I just can't give up cheeseburgers.
Right. Well, you don't have to.
Well, here's a cheeseburger. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might very well be the best cheeseburger you've ever tasted.
Yeah, here's a cheeseburger. Here's a fried vegan chicken sandwich. Here's
vegan tacos.
Yeah,
and
nuggets
and pizza and
yeah,
cake and cookies and ice cream and all of the stuff that, are our comfort foods, because junk food and comfort food are very often similar.
Oh yeah, they're definitely tied together.
Yeah. I mean, not always, because you can have an incredibly delicious, hearty, healthy soup that is also comfort food. But
sure,
I think more often than not, comfort food and junk food are kind of linked.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So I think, as people realize that, oh, well, geez, okay, I can, do better for the planet or do better for the animals or do better for my own health and still keep the flavor, still keep these tastes, still keep these comfort foods that I have in my life because vegan junk food exists.
Totally. And you can be vegan and eat nothing but junk food.
We wouldn't recommend that.
No,
but it's a choice.
Yeah. And if you did eat nothing but junk food, you might be interested in this next myth that needs to die, which is vegans get sick more than non-vegans and have weak immune systems. There's a ton of studies on that topic, and they all agree that eating a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and nuts and seeds and legumes, plant-based diets are loaded with antioxidants. Most vegans consume more plant sterols, which may actually enhance your immune function. As long as a vegan is getting proper nutrition, there's no evidence to support the theory that vegans get sick more often than omnivores. The evidence points to the contrary.
Now, I've got to say, I have, for myself, very personal evidence that this is absolutely not true. It used to be I would get an absolutely hideous cold every March. that would knock me out for like a week.
Right.
You know, terrible congestion and coughing and just a big, big, big mess. I haven't had that cold in almost 4 years. Like, that's amazing. And how long have we been vegan? 4+ years. We haven't hit year 5. So we're in the 4+ year mark.
Yeah.
I don't get headaches the way that I used to before we were vegan.
That's true. You don't get them as often.
I don't. And when I do get a headache, it's not nearly as severe as they used to be.
It's usually because of me. So
this is true. I won't argue this. Yes, Christine is the cause of 95% of my headaches. But given that they are much fewer and farther between than they used to be, you know, that must mean she's getting easier to live with.
I don't know about that.
Neither do I, but I thought I'd, just put that out there.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I agree. We do get sick much less frequently.
Right.
Now that we're vegan and we're eating more fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. Really, me, vegetables, I have an issue with fruit for some reason. I'm not a huge fruit eater. I like apples every now and again. I have a hard time squeezing fruit into my diet because I don't like it for breakfast. You know, it's good for a snack, and I should probably be better at making all of my snacks, even though I'm not snacking at all always throughout the day. But I should make a better effort to make those snacks a fruit of some kind.
Well, I mean, I think we both could. I'm quite the opposite. I love fruit. I absolutely love it. But because Christine doesn't really eat much of it, it's hard to keep fruit in the house because there's only so much fruit I can eat in a week. Right.
Like I can buy maybe 3 oranges. If we buy a bag of oranges, we're going to be throwing oranges away because I don't eat them.
Yeah. So, and also most of the fruits that I really, really love are spring and summer fruits.
Yeah, berries and stuff.
Berries, pineapple, mango, all of that kind of stuff, watermelon. So even though I do enjoy an apple every now and again, and I certainly enjoy a good apple crisp. See, there you go, turning a perfectly healthy food into vegan junk food.
Yeah, I just made an apple crisp a couple of weeks ago. And
so good.
It was really good.
So good.
If that's the only way you're getting your fruit, though.
Right, exactly.
Not
so no, we could both do better in terms of consuming fruit. I think we do just fine with vegetables, and I think we do just fine with proteins and all of that stuff. But we could up our fruit game. But also, I have to say, the last couple of times you've gotten sick, both the time that you got COVID, I mean, I got it as well, but mine was a much milder version than what you got. And then the last time you got a really serious cold, I didn't catch it.
It's true.
And it used to be that if one of us got sick, the other one was going to get sick not too far in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
And that has become far less true.
Yeah, that's weird. And yeah, I mean, we just don't get colds as often as we used to. And Sam works around teenagers.
I do.
All day long. You know, they don't wash their hands nearly as much as they should. And maybe they, she's in a field where kids are sweating a lot. Yep. And so she's exposed to a lot of their fluids, whatever, airborne fluids and stuff. And like Sam said, you used to get sick more often, like at the beginning of the semester.
Every March.
And then in March, you would get a cold or whatever.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem to happen.
Nope.
Nearly as frequently, if at all, anymore.
It's really pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I do chalk some of that up for sure to being vegan.
Yeah. It seems like the only time I get a cold is when I'm around Lucy. And it's funny because everybody else can be fine, but if Lucy has a sniffle, I end up with a cold. There's something about her germs.
That's true. Your last cold was from Lucy, wasn't it?
Anytime Lucy germs are around me, if she's got just a hint of a cold, even if she's not sick or someone around her was sick, I swear there's something about her germs that just latch on to me and they're like, you're going to get sick.
I don't know.
But it's usually just a cold. So, yeah. So much for that myth.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why that myth exists. I do still see people posting maybe on YouTube videos or on social media posts. You still see people posting that a vegan diet is unhealthy and that people need meat and dairy in order to maintain their nutrition. I just don't see how people can say that that's true. How people can't see that eating fruits and vegetables and legumes and grains and nuts when it's a proven fact that that is the way you should be eating. I don't know why people can still say those things, you know?
Well,
They're just uneducated, I guess.
well, again, no one, I'm not sure there's anyone in the world who is out there spouting absolute truth.
Especially not on the internet or on YouTube.
Right, exactly. So, it's they are stating what they believe,
Right.
which they have every right to do. So, just because we have seen evidence to the contrary and therefore believe the opposite is true.
Yeah.
That's just us then spouting what we believe.
Right.
We are not the purveyors of absolute truth.
No.
Wouldn't that be terrifying?
No, there should be a disclaimer at the beginning of the show.
That we are not the purveyors of absolute truth?
Absolutely not.
Excellent. I think we should do that.
What is our next vegan myth that needs to die?
The next vegan myth is that all vegans are rich white people.
We are, I guess we'd be considered Caucasian.
Well, yes.
I'm Mediterranean, but you still have to put white when they ask you what you are.
And I'm Northern European, so I'm as white as they come.
Yeah, but we're not rich.
No. But you have to keep the idea of wealth in perspective with the rest of the world.
It's relative.
Because while we are not wealthy compared to people who are deemed wealthy by society, and certainly not next to those mega billionaires that are dropping crazy amounts of money for a 10-minute space flight and all of that kind of malarkey.
Yeah.
But compared to a lot of people in many parts of the world, the United States included, we are quite well off.
Yeah, sure, I can agree with that.
I mean, I heard a saying somewhere, and I'm not going to quote this exactly, but the idea is that if you have a place to live, you have food on the table, you have money in your pocket, you have like any amount of savings, like if you have $10 in your pocket and any amount in savings, that you're in the wealthiest 10% of the planet.
I know, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, let's take the word rich with a grain of salt because it's all relative.
Okay. But let's still try to debunk this. Vegans are all rich white people.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think it would be really interesting if one of these days we do at least one, if not several episodes on veganism and colonialism. But what we know as veganism today really is traced back to non-white cultures. Ancient Indian and West Asian cultures were some of the first to live on plant-based diets. Despite the word vegan first being used just 77 years ago, one of the earliest followers of what we now call a vegan diet was Arab philosopher and poet al-Ma'ari, who abstained from animal products for his health and beliefs on the transmigration of soul and animal welfare. When it comes to our modern culture, the most influential examples of veganism come from India. They gave the world Buddhism and Jainism, which went on to influence vegan diets in the rest of Asia as well as Europe.
It's true.
Certainly is.
It would be really difficult to follow a Jain diet because you can't eat root vegetable. You can't eat the source of life.
Right.
So you can't eat seeds because they're the source of life for many plants. I'm not sure about beans, if beans would fall in that category.
I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little more reading.
No root vegetables.
No root vegetables, no garlic, no onions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be really hard to follow that as a diet.
Well, I think being used to the way that we eat it would be a challenge. Absolutely. I don't think it impossible by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. And like Sam said, we could do multiple episodes on veganism and colonialism, and we still wouldn't do the topic justice.
Oh, heavens no.
You know?
Oh, heavens no.
Our next vegan myth that needs to die is vegans can't be plus-sized. This is a terrible myth and a stereotype that all vegans are skinny, malnourished hippies. The fact is that vegans come in all shapes and sizes, just like omnivores, and we're proof of that.
We sure are.
Cases of vegans being body shamed and mocked, even in a joking manner, due to the size of their body is something that we find completely unacceptable, and we'll always call this repulsive behavior out if we witness it online or in the real world.
Right. Because, of course, you get, one side of things. If you see a vegan who is exceptionally thin, you get the people saying, oh, my gosh, eat a cheeseburger.
Right.
that kind of a thing. That obviously you're not being nourished well enough, and that's why you are so slender. And then, of course, there's the other side of it. Like, wait a minute, you can't be vegan. You're overweight. Well, that's not true either. It's entirely possible to be a large vegan. It's entirely possible to be a tiny vegan, and it's entirely possible to be any version of vegan in between.
Right, because everyone's diet is different. Everyone's metabolism is different. Everyone's DNA is different. And how you eat doesn't necessarily reflect in what your body looks like.
No, not at all. I mean, just what stage of life are you in, too? I mean, you and I have both gained weight with getting older.
Thanks, menopause. In my case, anyway.
But, you know, and that's part of the cycle. It's going to happen. It's okay.
That and the fact that Sam was a big bread baker for a couple of years there.
Yeah, it's all my fault. Yeah.
And I ate a lot of bread.
Yeah, it's all my fault that she gained weight. I made too much bread.
It's not all your fault. I mean, I could have ate less bread, but
you didn't. Yeah, so vegans come in all shapes, all sizes, all types.
Yeah, just like omnivores.
And we love them all.
Yep. What is our next myth that needs to die?
I'm really surprised that this is even on the list because seriously, I'm not sure anyone really thinks this is a myth anymore.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Like, going vegan has no impact on the environment. How does anyone think that's a myth anymore?
I have seen people argue the fact online.
I mean, how... I just don't get it.
People argue the fact all the time online. I mean, the simple argument that vegans eat so much soy. Soy is responsible for 90% of the forest loss on Earth. But they never say people only eat 1% of all soy grown. Not just vegans, people in general.
Right.
That's all the soy that's in products on the shelves. That's all the soy in, you know, there's soy isolates.
All the soy that is being grown through deforestation is going to feed livestock.
Right.
Well, so not that's all, just, but the vast majority.
Yeah. So that's just one way people believe that going vegan has no impact on the environment.
Yes. So for those of you who might think that going vegan has no impact on the environment, yes, it absolutely does. Avoiding animal flesh and secretions has a major impact on the environment. There are numerous studies that a vegan diet uses less land, conserves more water, and produces fewer greenhouse gases. A vegan diet uses 70 to 80% fewer resources than an omnivorous diet. So maintaining a vegan diet will significantly decrease your negative impact on the planet.
Yeah, don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
That's right. We can't eliminate harm completely. Just by our very existence, we are going to cause harm in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
We can't eliminate it completely, but being vegan definitely reduces that harm significantly.
Yeah. And our final vegan myth that needs to die, at least in this list, I'm sure we'll find more, and I'm sure we'll debunk more in future episodes. But our final myth in this episode is you can't get enough protein without consuming animals. We all know this isn't true.
This is so not true.
Yeah. Most research finds protein deficiency extremely rare, except in cases where people are simply not consuming enough calories. I think we've said this before, but most omnivores really get much more protein than they actually need. And consuming too much protein has been found to be more harmful than consuming too little. That being said, you can get sufficient protein from beans, nuts, grains, and vegetables.
And bonus, the protein that you're getting from plant sources is not going to be packed with the cholesterol and heme iron that is going to be absolutely flooding your animal-based proteins.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of research out there that shows that eating a diet high in protein and especially animal proteins is not good for you and definitely not good for the animals involved in those proteins. So those are just a few vegan myths that we thought needed to die. Let us know if you have some myths that you would like us to debunk. Send those along to us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com. or DM them to us on Instagram or Facebook. Now, I think we said last week that we were going to be maybe not retiring, but putting our reason to be vegan segment on a hiatus.
Yeah, to do a little research.
Yeah. So I thought what we could do was instead kind of flip the script a little bit and talk about how to become vegan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how does one do that?
Well, according to Sentient Media, everyone's vegan journey looks different. After learning about the cruelty that's inflicted on non-human animals by our food system, many people are ready to give up eating animal bodies and secretions overnight. They purge their fridges, rid their closets of animal skin or fur, and ditch cosmetics that were made through testing on animals. Others need more time to continue learning and navigating a plant-based diet. No matter how one decides to become vegan, there are a few things that can make your transition smoother. So what's today's helpful suggestion?
Today's helpful suggestion is to join a vegan community. Joining a vegan community can make all the difference. While some folks are okay with going against the grain of society by themselves, others need the emotional and mental support that a vegan community can offer. Start by considering people that you know in person. Do you know any vegans or already have vegan friends? They can be great resources for answering your questions about animal agriculture, learning where the best vegan food spots are, figuring out which clothing items or beauty products are cruelty-free, and learning how to consume a plant-based diet.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's really fun to find a vegan community near you.
Absolutely.
And you may have to travel. Like we have to travel at least an hour in either direction.
Sure.
To find any sort of real vegan community.
Right. But whenever we find ourselves in the midst of the Buffalo or Rochester or Syracuse vegan communities, it's just an absolute blast.
It is. We love being around other vegans.
We do. It's so much fun.
It is.
So much fun.
And we always learn something, whether it's like a restaurant we haven't tried that we need to try, or a new way to prepare food, or a new animal sanctuary that we didn't know existed. We're always learning from our fellow vegans in our vegan community. So
absolutely.
I think that's a good recommendation. Even if the only way that you can find community is by finding it online, there are tons and tons of vegan Facebook groups out there that you can join. And most of them they're not your typical Facebook group where there's a lot of infighting and all that jazz.
I hope not.
No, most of them are filled with very kind and understanding people, especially if you're a new vegan. And there are even Facebook groups out there that are specifically for new vegans.
Cool.
So if you can't find a physical community where you can actually meet people face to face in real life, there's plenty of communities out there online that you can join and that you can have conversations with people.
So true.
Yeah. Brings us to our favorite portion of the show.
It's listener shout out time.
Just want to give a shout out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's shout out goes to Krista Arsenal. Krista is a vegan from Nova Scotia and has been a volunteer for a local search and rescue team for the past 6 years. She's a La Leche League leader and supports families or individuals who are interested in breastfeeding. She's a homeschooling mother of 2 and listens to the podcast when she's driving her 2 young daughters, Everin and Alice, around from place to place. Krista hosted a local vegan Thanksgiving potluck dinner in her community for Canadian Thanksgiving. That's awesome.
Right?
Yes, that is awesome. And thank you so much for listening, Krista.
Yeah, let us know how your potluck went. And I really just want to give a shout out, not just to Krista, but to Everin and Alice, who have to listen to us in the car while they're being driven around. And I just think that your daughters' names are beautiful. Everin and Alice.
So lovely.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So thanks so much for listening, Krista. And contact us with your t-shirt size and address so that we can send you a Compassion and Cucumbers swag bag. You can email us that information at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or simply DM us on Instagram or Facebook.
And that brings us to our vegan org of the week. This week, we're taking a look at the Movement for Compassionate Living, aka Veggies. Located in Nottingham, Great Britain, Veggies is a volunteer-led, community-based social enterprise. Veggies has been promoting vegan catering and supporting campaigns for human and animal rights, environmental protection, and social justice since 1984. Partly due to their work, veganism is now widely understood in their area as an ethical and sustainable way of living. Veggies is a workers' cooperative with 3 workers sharing one living-waged job. They aim to live simply so that others might simply live. They are associate members of Radical Roots, the network of grassroots cooperatives working for social change, and are members of the Vegan Traders Union. The organization receives welcome support from a team of dedicated volunteers. Veggies are based at Nottingham's Sumac Centre, the campaign resource centre part funded by Veggies. To learn more about them and their unique mission, go to www.veggies.org.uk.
The old www.
It's returned.
It has come back. Thing I found really interesting while I was perusing Veggies' website is the fact that the Vegan Traders Union exists.
Isn't that cool?
There in UK.
Right?
It's a union for vegan businesses.
So awesome.
That's amazing. And I don't know if that exists anywhere here in the States, but I'd like to find that out. I think it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, let's find out. I'm skeptical that there is any kind of vegan union in the United States, but, I'll eat my words if I'm wrong.
As long as they're vegan.
Exactly.
I actually checked out the Vegan Traders Union website, and it was really cool. All these different businesses, restaurants, and
retailers
and even advocacy groups that belonged to this union. I thought it was really cool.
Super cool.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it works. I'm sure there's dues and all that jazz, just like every other union. I just thought that was a really cool thing.
It is. We're going to have to find out more about that.
Yeah. Holy guacamole, it's time to wrap things up. So let's do that. Let's wrap things up. As always, we encourage you to join the AFA Vegan Voter Hub and support them in any way that you can. The Agriculture Fairness Alliance is lobbying in D.C. on our behalf so that our vegan voices are heard. If you want to be included in the conversation, join the Vegan Voter Hub. The link is always in the show notes.
Well, friends, it's time to sign off. You've just listened to episode 110 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, and there's nothing left to say but where cukes and compassion are always the fashion on the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week, everyone.
Hey, we'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
Bye-bye.
The end.
If you'd like to support the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, well, you can do that by hopping on over to our Patreon page and becoming a patron. We have all the recipes from our Vegan Kitchen series up there, and we'll be adding some patron-only episodes in the near future. So thank you for supporting us at whatever level that you choose, and thank you again for listening to Compassion and Cucumbers podcast.